Now, the defense budget may not have been at the top of the agenda at yesterday's presidential debate, but that doesn't mean that the candidates got off easy. Now, keep in mind, it was a recent CNN poll that showed that 48% of Americans believe another Great Depression may hit in the next year. So what kind of hard-hitting questions did CNN pose to the candidates? Well, let's take a look.
Elvis or Johnny Cash?
Oh, that's really tough.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Leno or Conan?
I'm neither. Probably Leno.
BlackBerry or iPhone?
BlackBerry.
BlackBerry it is. Deep dish or thin crust?
Deep dish.
Spicy or mild?
Oh, spicy.
Dancing with the Stars or American Idol?
American Idol.
Maybe we'll have to have an American Idol contest and go from there.
There we go.
I'm sorry, what? Unemployment just went up to 9%. Half of all unemployed Americans have been out of work for at least 6 months. 44 million Americans are on food stamps. American home sales dropped $6.3 trillion, that's with a T, dollars since the housing crisis began. And the Fed is printing dollars like toilet paper. And we're asking the next potential president of the United States about pizza? Really? Something's out of whack here, but thankfully, I know just the man to set us straight. Gerald Celente is the director of the Trends Research Institute and the publisher of the Trends Journal. He's with us from New York. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Celente. Now, did you hear a single idea from these candidates during the 2-hour debate last night that made you feel like, you know, maybe we'll be okay if one of these guys wins office?
Not really. To me, the only one that has any credibility at all is Ron Paul. And I'm a political atheist. I don't take sides on this stuff. And that is that he's the only one talking about bringing home the troops, about legalizing marijuana, about ending these wars on terror, on drugs, and other kinds of wars. It's disgraceful. CNN, you know, it's a cartoon news network. Only somebody with a child's mind would ask such mindless questions. It's the presidential reality show. We just saw it live. None of these candidates, again with the exception of Paul, is indistinguishable from the other. So it's quite disgraceful what went on in New Hampshire and what the Cartoon News Network calls a debate.
Although, of course, I don't know if it would be necessarily any better on any other network that we're talking about here. But you mentioned one of the things, one of the points that Ron Paul brought up, which is ending the military conflicts that this country is involved with it. And there are many of them. We're talking about Afghanistan. We're talking about Iraq. There's the covert wars in Yemen. There's Pakistan and Libya, of course. And one of the interesting developments that we saw last night was the U.S. Congress voted to cut off funding for efforts in Libya. All of this just as a plurality of Americans finally say that, you know, they don't think that it's worth for the United States to keep on getting militarily involved in Libya there. So if you have Congress seemingly on board, the American people on board, what are the chances that we're going to end that war?
Probably slim and none. They're going to keep it going at some extent, we believe. You're not going to see an end come very soon because then it has to go to the Senate. And you can never tell whether it's going to be a false flag or something real that will rile the American people. Let's not forget how quickly sentiments changed against Obama to for Obama when the Osama versus Obama episode broke back on May 1st, and how the nation rallied behind him. And by the way, I want to take exception about CNN. To ask such childish questions at a time when every day I get letters from people, they're losing everything. People that have jobs for 35 years have no work at all. They're losing their homes. Our soldiers are getting killed. The wars are draining the treasury. And a little clown asks, what do you like? Deep dish or thin crust? Leno or Conan? Come on. You know, as I said, this is the presidential reality show. America's gone from Sinatra to Snooki Stupid, but it's really indicative of where the country is heading. And that's the importance of last night's debate.
Well, where is the country heading, Mr. Celente? Is it going to get worse?
It's heading down. Anybody that would believe that the same brilliant minds that created all of these problems, whether they're military problems, economic problems, are now going to miraculously pull us out of this, well, they're out of their minds. because the losers and the incompetents are in the White House. It's the Beltway incompetence. They're not going to fix these problems, and we're warning people what's going on around the world, whether it's in the European Monetary Union, they're not going to fix the Greek problem. They're not going to fix the Portugal problem. They're not going to fix the problems in Spain and Ireland, Italy coming up, UK's already in one. How are they going to fix the problems? Oh, I have an idea. You have a second mortgage? Take out a third. Take out new debt on top of old debt. That's the only thing they could come up with. So we're going through the great collapse. The world markets are seeing it. Even now, the guys at the round table, the business round table, are, quote, less optimistic than before.
Now, Mr. Celente, you've been doing this for a long time, and you've been making these predictions. A lot of them have panned out, and unfortunately, every time you say something like this, people say, you know what, you're a doom and gloomer, you're a pessimist, you're an alarmist. Why is it that we're not hearing these ideas elsewhere? Why aren't we hearing this on our mainstream media channels and from the politicians that we elect into office?
You're not hearing it on the business news networks because you have the Wall Street barkers out there selling you their line of goods. Hey, how about a credit default swap? You know, you look just like the kind of woman that needs a synthetic collateralized debt obligation. So they're always hawking something. It's a big Ponzi scheme, and I'm not saying this in generalities. Do you realize that it's always time to buy, and only 1.5% do they ever say it's a selling opportunity? It's always a buying opportunity. They need to keep the Ponzi scheme going, and they don't like guys like me that say, don't eat the corporate Kool-Aid and don't buy the political junk.
And who's they? Who's they? Is it the anchors? Is it the politicians? Is it Wall Street?
It's the corporate media. Look, I know a lot of these people in the corporate media. We have dinner and we talk, and they say how fortunate I am because I'm not beholden to anyone. They have the paycheck that they have to worry about. So they have to watch what they say. They go off cue or out of line, they get the call from the top or from somebody out in the political field that doesn't like them talking about this guy or that boy or girl.
Well, Mr. Celente, before we run out of time, you got me pretty upset here. I'm pretty depressed after this segment. If the Republicans don't have it right, if Obama doesn't have it right, if no one has it right, is there any sort of hope for some sort of positive development? I mean, how do we get out of this mess? Do we have to collapse completely?
The way you get out of the mess is take a cue from Iceland. Tiny little Iceland. I guess that's the only country left with fighting it now. They had referendums. In Italy, a referendum. Let the people vote on these issues. The politicians don't represent us. Only little kids believe that. The politicians represent the people that stuffs the most money into their pockets. In the Bronx, we call it bribes and payoffs. In the white shoe boy language, they call it campaign contributions.
Well, Mr.
So
Celente,
the people have to vote.
Mr. Celente, if you ever run for office, I hope that you let us know first. Thank you so much. That was Gerald Celente, the director of the Trends Research Institute.